Here I am in my pellamotors.com Pacifica, and I am in Rocheport, Missouri. I'm at a race shop, and if you know anything about racing in the Midwest, as soon as you see that color and that number, and there's, you'll need to explain the purple seat to me in a second. How you going, mate?
Hey Wade, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Yes.
What's with the purple seat?
Well, we're all about red, but my wife is purple, and she loves the purple color. And she's been wanting us to do a purple car, but we haven't got that far yet.
I was gonna say, that's probably pushing it a little, isn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah, we can't get much away from the red. We do have a black and white car that we're gonna run. We had a Mizzou themed car from here in Missouri.
Yeah.
Missouri Tigers is black and gold, and we Tiger Towing is one of our main sponsors, and we did a themed car for them one year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
where is Rocheport, Missouri?
Rocheport is located straight west of Columbia, Missouri, just a few miles. We're right on I-70, halfway between Kansas City and St. Louis.
Okay.
And we're right off I-70, not very far, so we're really located really good to go anywhere racing-wise. We're right in the center of everything. We can go north, south, east, west, wherever. So
Yeah, sweet. It's roughly 4 hours from Knoxville, yeah?
Yep, 4 hours, truck and trailer ride, 4 hours every week, up and back, and we just commit to that every time here. We've been there 2 years in a row now. And years ago we ran there too, but we've committed with my son up there, Timothy, for the last 2 years, and so it's been turning out really well. He's really adapted really well. We're getting more speed, and looking forward to finishing out the year next week, and get back to it this winter and get some stuff built up for next year.
So you guys are a third generation team, effectively?
Yes, my dad started back years ago in 1970. He bought his first car, started racing in 71, and then I got involved when I got older, and we actually put together everything, just me and him, in 1985. So me and him been together since 85.
Such a cool thing to do with your dad.
Yes, and then when my son wanted to drive, it's been really different with your son in the car instead of a hired driver like we've been doing for years. Yep.
He started off in soapboxes?
Soapbox cars, yep, when he was little, and then we did flat cart racing for a while, about 2.5 years, and then we went from that straight to a 360 Sprint. We bypassed the micros and did all that kind of thing and went straight to it because we had a bunch of stuff sitting here in the shop to race with. So.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of chrome molly in here.
Yeah.
You better introduce me to these two guys.
This is Jerry Smith, the one that started all of it years ago.
Hey, Jerry.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. No security at this place.
They'll let anybody in.
Tony Stewart with the Stewart House.
The real Tony Stewart.
One of our sponsors. Yep.
What is the Stewart House, by the way? Please explain.
Stewart House is a nursing home.
Wow.
People say, how do you get into racing from a nursing home?
Yeah.
No one wants to talk about a nursing home.
Yeah.
But they love to talk about racing. And we were actually at Double X Raceway where I got started in this.
Yep.
And there was a lady serving hamburgers down the concession stand, and she saw the shirt, and she said, "Is that a nursing home?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Where?" And I said, "Centurion, Missouri." And she goes, "I think my uncle just went there."
No way.
Sure enough, it was her uncle. And then literally like a month ago, we had a lady place her mom and was from my wife's hometown. So they had a connection through school and growing up and stuff. Came in a couple days later with a koozie that I give out. That's my big thing.
Yeah, the yellow ones. I've got one in the car, yeah.
And she's like, "Is this you guys?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "My husband has a ton of these in the shop, in the garage." So you don't think it's a connection, but Chad Griggs with Valley View sponsors Kyle Bellum and Blake Hahn. So there's a few of us, the nursing home group that like to go to the races and do our thing there. So
you're another 20 years away from going to a place like that, Jerry, the way I figure it.
Yeah, I hope not.
How old are you now?
I'm 79.
You've been doing this as a car owner since around about 70, 71?
1971 I started racing.
Wow. And you never drove yourself?
No, sir. Well, drove 2 laps one time, and that's it.
Okay.
And that just wasn't my cake.
What made you decide to be a car owner?
Oh, I just picked out something I wanted to do, and I worked mechanic all my life, and I just wanted something to go fast. And I got in dirt racing, and I stayed in it. I have run asphalt too.
We don't need to talk about that. And boats and things like that. You do boat engines as well, Jeff. Yeah.
Pretty much anything engine-wise, racing, stock stuff.
Yep.
Chevelles, stuff like that.
Yeah, you got a pretty cool old Ricky Bobby out there, which is pretty cool. When you look at it, when you lay it all out like this, you've had some of the true greats of American and Australian sprint car racing. You had the great Garry Rush drive for you.
Yes, sir. Just sure did.
What do you recall about that, and how did that happen?
Well, Knoxville called me and wanted Garry Rush to come race over here, and they knew I had a couple cars, so that's how we got hooked up, and he come over here and race for me.
Because you know that Garry Rush is Australia's Steve Kinser.
Yep.
And if I'm thinking, if it was around 78, you said?
Yes.
He was well and truly in his badass phase.
Yeah, he was.
So he was quite the wheelman. How did he go over here?
He went pretty good. He had him and another guy got together coming off of 2, and I can't remember who it was, but anyway, he hit the guardrail on the fence over and bent the car in the ass.
Uh-oh. I think you would have met Kay as well. I'm pretty sure Gary and
yeah.
Kay traveled together. And didn't you tell me a funny story about?
Yeah, Dad was telling a story about when he come down to drive, and first off they were wanting some. He was wanting some duct tape. We call it duct tape.
Yeah, yep.
They call it rosin. Is that rosin?
Resin?
Tape? Resin tape.
Yep, yep.
And they were asking. Gary was asking Dad about where's the resin tape, and Dad goes, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you want? And their old saying was 200-mile-an-hour tape.
Correct.
And Dad goes, you mean 200-mile-an-hour tape? And he goes, yeah. So they had to start learning each other's language, you know.
Yeah. There's a guy over here that's fairly good. You want to spin that picture around there for me, mate? Just show me. That guy drove for you. You can hold that up if you like, and I can get a good shot of it. This guy drove for you?
Yep, 1977. He drove for Dad, and they had a couple other partners on that car at the time.
Whatever happened to that guy? Did he ever make it? Was he any good?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if he ever really,
He was awesome. They actually just I saw where they had a book signing, or a book announcement that they have a book coming out in 25, I believe it is.
So what year was that?
This was 1977.
Right, so you had Kinser in 77 and Rushy in 78.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't end there.
Then we had Jimmy Seals.
Yeah, so show me a picture of Jimmy. Was it Luke Warmwater or Buckwheat? Like, who was driving the car that night? Do you recall which one it was?
They called him Buckwheat. Yeah.
You can hold that up nice and straight for me if you like. That way it takes the light off.
They called him Buckwheat then.
Yeah, wow. Look at that afro. Jeez, look at those wings.
That was at Eldora.
Goodness me. So good.
He really liked Eldora. I think they ran 7th and A main up there that time.
You've had some pretty phenomenal guys drive your hot rods over the years.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that your grandson's your favourite though, right?
Yeah, so far.
It's tougher. It's tougher with the family, but in some aspects. But it's definitely different when your son's actually driving, you know, and you think about things different.
Well, good chance for me to talk to the third generation part of this equation. Tim Smith, you got a few partners on board. I spoke to Dad recently about some of them, but you got a few more that we didn't get a chance to talk about. Mm-hmm. Who have you got on here?
We got Milestone, Colton Crane Racing, of course, my dad builds the motors, Maxim, Wolf Pumps, and KRC Club helps out with Knoxville purses and whatnot. So they're pretty good to us, and they don't get enough recognition, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, especially when things go wrong.
Yes.
Mate, how lucky are you? You went from no real interest in racing to a bit of soapbox.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, actually, I want to try and motor.
Yep. I came home one day and I was like, you know, when am I going to get something with a motor? I want some power. And they said flat carts would be the place to start. So that's how it all started.
You must be aware of the history of this team, how your pop started it all, and, you know, Dad, and 53 years or something like that. And this number is kind of iconic. And I just called a guy called Garry Rush in Australia and FaceTimed him. And there's a lot of history in your team.
Yes, there's a lot of history. Of course, all the recent ones I know is like Kyle Bellum and Kevin Swindell drove one race, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Todd Bishop is probably the most underrated out of all of them. He won a lot of races for us, and there's just too many people to name off, you know?
Yeah. So what does it mean for you to drive for Pop? Because he fired your dad once.
He's also fired me about 3 times, but nobody knows that.
Oh, okay. So it's just a gentle firing? Okay, you're fired, but you're back next weekend?
It's not quite like that. It's a little bit serious, but, you know, we it's a family, so we get back together and talk things over, and we come to agreement and keep moving forward.
I mean, at the end of the day, they still want you to go forward, right? This is, fun. Yeah, let's put the grandkid in the car, put my boy in the car, but they still want you to get it done.
Yes. They said if I ever get in there, that I'm not going to ride around. I'm actually going to try to pass cars, going to move around and make some moves.
All right, so where are you at with this all now? How many years?
How many years? I started whenever I was 17, the sprint car, started in 2019 just at the small track Double X in California, Missouri.
Yeah. Compared to Knoxville.
Yeah, that's quite the opposite, isn't it? It went from sharp corners and probably you can't even go 3 wide there on the backstretch, I'm pretty sure, if you tried.
Stomp and steer at Double X to
Yep.
the incredible Knoxville Raceway. What was it like the first time you ever rolled in there?
Knoxville, the wall is very intimidating. It's kind of freaky looking at a wall taller than the car.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you want to do with this whole sprint car thing?
Just keep the tradition going. Just work it out the best I can, and just keep moving forward, like I always say.
It's incredible to think your pop's done this for 53 years.
Yeah, no, I honestly didn't think about it. 70s. I always think about it as the 70s, but 50 years makes it sound a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got a lot of family support. That's super important. Dad's obviously very proud of you, and you'd have to be pretty proud of him with what he does. He's very passionate.
Yes, it's kind of interesting. We all kind of took different paths. If you think about it, he builds the motors, I drive it, and my grandpa was really good with chassis, I heard back in the day. So, he still is. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of weird how we all took different paths of it,
You don't take this for granted, I wouldn't think, right?
No, definitely not. I practice a lot on iRacing, and I put in as many laps as possible and think about it all the time, watch footage, do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you love about this?
I just love the speed, and I love the skill it takes, and Knoxville's no joke whenever it comes to it's very technical, and it's very difficult to run the bottom there especially.
We always been about safety and all that kind of stuff, but the conversations are a little different sometimes. You have to walk around certain things sometimes, and
You got to keep Mama happy.
Yeah, you got to keep my wife happy.
Got to keep the Minister for Purple Chairs.
Yeah, she does a lot of background work for us. And
Yeah, good.
stuff, so she helps out with the paperwork side of stuff, helping with motels and getting stuff booked and all that kind of thing. So it helps a lot.
She even checks lap times.
Does she really?
Keeps lap
she's on
times. Yeah. Lineups. She keeps track of the lineups for us, and I'm always like, "Where we at?" She goes, "I haven't posted it yet. I'll be there in a minute."
Timmy will never forget to go to the scales.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a timely comment at the moment.
When my son first started it, we were at the lake, and he missed the scales for the first time he ever had to go to the scales. So he was so excited, he went straight to the trailer. And
Oh.
I feel bad because I got on him pretty bad, but he'll never forget it.
So that's Lake of the Ozarks you're talking about there?
That
Like
was at Eldon, Missouri, Lake
Yeah.
Ozark Speedway. That's when he first started the first year, and he actually ran good enough in the heat to go to the scales, and just he was excited. He ran good, and he went straight to the trailer, and then I busted his bubble about not going to the scales, and I said, just because you're my son, you don't mean you can't get fired,
But would his granddad fire him though?
Well, I don't know. I have to think about it.
Yeah, I don't think his granddad would fire him. You're a tough man, mate. Gee.
Oh, I've seen my dad fire some before.
Well, yeah, not blood though.
No.
So you guys you've got some great relationships jointly. Like you're doing Steve Jennetten's engines.
Yeah, I work on Jennetten's engines for his business and his personal stuff, and race cars and stuff like that. And with the dad, Steve Jenneten, he started driving champ cars again this year. And
Never too late to drive champ cars, hey Tony?
And never too old to race.
And Gene was the ultimate badass. He was the original badass, the granddad, Ayrton's granddad.
Yeah, he was really, really good in the midgets. He was good in sprint cars too, but he got his name started in the midget world.
Yeah.
And he built cars actually, so he could weld them. He could do all the fabrication stuff, and then he started his business at the lake, Ozark Barge and Dock Service.
Yep.
And
You're talking about connections in the sport. So I hooked up with a guy in Knoxville, met him at Oski. He's George Prosser from Mansfield, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Brought Jenneten over because I helped sponsor Arrington. Steve came over, and they were all sitting there talking. About that time, George's eyes lit up, and he's like, was Gene your dad? And they're like, yeah. And he goes, I drove one of his midgets in Ohio.
Yeah. It's amazing how things connect in the racing
6 degrees of separation.
Yes.
Happens a lot in our sport.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Well, I think I mentioned to you last week up at Knoxville how we met Bill and Pat Spies.
Yep.
And Michelle's mom.
Yep.
You know, and it's just, if they could ever win enough money where we could afford to go to Australia, we'll go to Australia.
Can you hurry up and win
They're
enough
trying
money,
to hit the
please?
lottery. The
Jeez. I mean, the way I figure it, Rushy owes you a ride, right? So, you know, the way I figure it, Rushy. Yeah, I'm sure you do. So let's just do the maths here for a second. Is it 70 or 71? 71.
71.
So we're talking 53 years.
Yeah, 53 years.
And there was one period there where you sold up because you had the shits on.
Yeah, I had one year back in, I think it was back in the 80s, I sold out.
79.
79 or 80.
You remember the year?
Yeah, in 79, they had a partnership deal, and then they all kind of went their different ways. And then they sold out everything, and then me and my dad, well, he wanted to get back into it, of course. So
4 months later, he told me.
Yeah.
That's how long it lasted.
We started getting stuff built up, and then in 84, we bought a car and all kinds of stuff, and then we started actually racing again in 85. And
You got out of high school at that time.
and then we've been racing. Yeah, I graduated in 86, so we were, I built my first engine there when I was telling you when I was 14 or so. So
So you never wanted to race?
it's been a long road. I drove once. I turned over at Moberly one night, barrel rolled it, got fired.
Got fired? So you can fire drivers then?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you said blood, I was like, yeah, okay.
Did you say, you basically said, son, this isn't for you?
Well,
We're going to go broke doing this?
I put a lot of old stuff on it, you know, and I knew it was probably turn over, so I figured, well, you're going to waste anything, you waste the old stuff.
Yep.
And we put that old stuff on it for probably going to turn over. And he did.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you didn't want to let him down. He invested a lot in the secondhand stuff, you know.
Todd Bishop was driving for us at the time, and he had a prior commitment to run the Nationals with the car out of the Chicago area. And we were running for points at Moberly at the time. And the points went to the car then. It didn't matter who drove. And I just made a comment, well, I'll just drive this week. And he's like, okay. I didn't think he was going to say yes. So then I was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to do it now, you know. So I borrowed one of Bishop's old suits, which he's shorter than I am, so it didn't look very good. And we didn't tell my mom before we got to the track. Of course not. And I put the suit on and went to fire the car up to warm the engine up. And she said, what are you doing with the suit on? I said, well, I'm going to drive tonight. And she said, what? And she
That's called begging for forgiveness, not permission.
She went straight to Dad, and I got rolled out so I could go start the car, so I didn't get to hear all the...
Did she chew your butt?
Yes. He chewed me out more because I didn't tell her ahead of time.
Well, you know, it's a need-to-know basis, right?
Yeah. Yeah, she was pretty nervous, I think, and I ended up just barrel rolling in the feature there. It was the...
Oh, you waited till the feature race?
Yeah. Ran third in the heat, actually.
All right, the heat.
Ran
Oh,
third
okay.
in the heat. Then we ended up getting sideways and spun out in the feature and then just barrel rolled. And so just kind of turned it over light, but we had an oldest, heaviest wing we had on. And, you know, that day we went to lunch and he's like, we're going to put all the old wings on and all that. I said, what are you going to do that for? He goes, well, you're going to turn over and bend up all the new stuff. He goes, we're not going to do that. And I was like, well, I'm not planning on turning it over. And
Well, nobody plans to, do they, Jerry? I mean, geez.
so yeah, it was good. I mean, I've warmed some cars up before back in the day when I could get in the seat still.
Yep.
My son's so skinny I can't even get my right leg in it anymore. So that don't happen. So we have to have somebody. We have to have him start it.
So we're talking about Kevin Eckert working out how many people have driven for you and all those incredible statistics. Because when you add it up over 53 years, probably been a few races.
There's been a whole lot of them. Some of them I really have forgot about them, and some of them are dead. So
Some of them run a few times, just a couple races, you know, and
Yeah.
filled in and stuff. But we've had some really great drivers, you know, over the years. You mentioned Jimmy Seals, Steve Kinser. Todd Bishop drove for us for like 10 seasons straight, I believe. We won a lot of 360 races with him. And, you know, we've had Tony Bruce Jr. won some races with us.
Yeah.
Jesse Giannetto, Don Drow Jr.
Yeah, wow.
And so, I mean, man, we're going to work on that because sometimes some of them kind of get away from you, you know. So we're trying to get all that kind of lined out and get something where we can actually look at and have a timeline built. And of course, my son's doing it now, so.
So do you love this as much as you always did?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Yeah. It's pretty hard for me now because of my age, and I can't travel as good as I used to. And I used to
has some pretty good stories
used
about him
to,
traveling.
used to do a lot of driving myself.
I can't. Okay, yep.
So I kind of quit driving my truck and stuff. I just don't feel like I need to be driving anymore.
Do you have a budget for the year? And you go, this is how
Nah,
many?
I don't have no budget.
Huh.
Just do it.
We just do it if we can.
Do it when I run out of money. I quit and then come back.
They run out, they call me.
Yeah, well, you know,
We need tires this weekend.
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And this guy behind you on the car here, just on this panel here, I was wondering what was going on with that. That's actually a sponsor of yours as well.
Yeah, we have a guy that wanted to help us, and he didn't really want his name on there and stuff, but he's we call him the bow and arrow guy, so we had to put something on there to so he knew what he was on there and be appreciated, you know. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had good partners here lately. Tiger Tony's been with us for a long time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Tony Stewart's been with us. The Stewart House, TSR Racing. He's been with us for a while. Castle and Sons come on the last couple years. Farms, they're great people. The Briar Patch is my stepmom's place.
Okay.
She helps us out quite a bit too. But we got a lot of good partners that, you know, they help a lot. We don't have any corporate sponsors or anything, but what we got helps us get through the year, and we just go at it year after year, you know. And it takes years to build up stuff like this for us. You know?
Yeah.
Some people can.
You got a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
And I did notice back here, you got some super cool old pictures here from 1978. Like, just some of the names on here are just next level, aren't they?
Yes. That was.
Leland, Bobby Allen, Shane Carson,
It's when the World of Outlaws first started.
Rick Ferkel.
First race was in Mesquite, Texas at Double.
Yeah, that's where the Outlaws started.
Yep. Jimmy Seals was running for them, and
Tommy Sanders.
Steve just got out of our dad and them's car and got into Carl's car, and then Jimmy Seals came and drove.
That's so cool. I really like your paint scheme. Kevin Swindell drove for you as well, which is super cool.
He drove for us at Wichita in March of the year. He actually got hurt in at Knoxville.
Okay.
And, you know, great. We got along good. Had a decent heat race. Sammy was in the heat race, and them two race each other harder than anybody races anybody else, you know. And they went out and run each other. So they had a good race in the heat race. And then we had to run the B main. Ended up winning the B main going away, and started in the back of the A, and we got up to like fourth, I believe, in the feature, and we got spun down the back straightaway on the last lap. And actually, Kevin kept it running, did a 360, and we only lost like 3 spots. So, amazing guy, amazing driver.
It's amazing how men can forget things, yet we can remember everything about every night of racing that we did. Isn't it amazing? Yeah. You know, when wives say, you know, hey, where'd you put the remote? Yeah, I don't know. Where did you run in that heat race at Lakeside in '98? You know, well, I remember we started back on the 3rd row, and
Well, the drivers can remember every lap.
yeah, well, the good ones.
You know, that's amazing.
They can remember the good ones.
They literally get right out of the car and they're like, well, on lap 3, I was high and jumped the cushion. How do they remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. You got some cool stuff up on the wall back here as well.
Yeah.
Everything is red and yellow, Jerry. You pretty well stayed with the red and yellow for the majority of your. I really like the white car, to be honest. Just as a one-off.
We're going to do a 410. We got a 410 engine we're going to do up, and we're going to have it in a black and white car, probably in Knoxville this next year. We're going to plan on doing a few runs with the 410 and getting familiar with that.
That's a really pretty car.
I think Timothy's ready to move up to the next
Ooh, look out.
We're looking for another 410, and I have one I'm actually working on now. We have the block and everything actually right here.
Ah, yep.
And, but yeah, this is where I put the engines together right here normally.
The Champ car engine back here.
Yeah, this is actually one of Jennison's engines. All we got left to do is plumb it. We got to do all the plumbing on it, and then dyno it, and it'll be ready to run.
You can run a Champ car at Steve's age, and I don't mean that like he's old, because he's not.
No,
he's not his kid's age.
He's young at heart, though. I mean,
and he's a racer.
Man, he's been excited to get going and stuff, and we've talked a lot. I mean, we probably talk on the phone 5-6 times a week. And
Yep.
sometimes for an hour or two or more. Late nights and stuff. Like when we get done with our other business during the day,
Yeah.
we wind down a little bit and then we'll get on the phone and talk. But yeah, I've known Steve for years. We call him Beaver, but most people know him by Beaver. They don't know his real name, but but yeah, he's a great guy.
Tell me about your dad. You must be so proud of him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's done a lot for us in the racing world, and I wouldn't have it any other way, you know, growing up and stuff, better than running around on the streets and doing all that stuff. And we've spent a lot of money over the years. He has a lot. I've spent some, but I tell you what, he's basically did whatever he could to keep us going, you know, whenever we needed something.
It gets in pretty deep.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
when it's in your blood, it's in your blood, right?
Yeah, like I said, we quit for a short time, and it's almost worse than a drug addiction, really. You know, you just got to do what you can. Terry McCarl made that comment one time years ago. Terry drove for us a few times, actually. And Terry said racing's one of the most worst addictions. You've seen people do whatever they could to go race the next night.
Yeah.
If they blow an engine or tear a car up, they're trying to get something together so they can get something. If you don't have a spare sitting like we do, you got to go find something or have somebody help you borrow or rent or whatever. And we've known a lot of people over the years that, you know, a lot of guys kind of work together if somebody needs something, and it works out really good.
If you can get that timeline together of who's driven and when and how, it'd be cool to put that forward as a submission for a Hall of Fame kind of deal, yeah?
Yes, we've submitted some stuff a couple years ago. Talked to Bob Baker. He's a great guy. He's from Sedalia. He used to promote Sedalia and we raced there. And he's a guy that we've known for a long time, and he does a great job up there, I think, at the Hall of Fame. And you know, they vote on it every year and stuff. But Kevin's working on the deal for us here. He's doing one for Briscoe, he told me the other night. And once he gets Briscoe's all done, he's going to do the one for Dad and the Smith Racing 86 side of stuff. And
Yeah, that's good.
so, yeah, we're looking forward to that.
I'm really pleased at how randomly this all happened that you and I caught up, because I just walked past you guys
yeah.
you know, before racing, and I was kind of just curious because there's so many stories in that pit area.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And then you mentioned Rush, and I was like,
yeah.
are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
Garry Rush drove for you, and
I
then...
saw your eyes light up when
Yeah.
I said Garry Rush.
He's the GOAT
Yeah.
of Australia, no doubt about that.
almost.
I'm really grateful for the chance to catch up with you and that quiet guy in the grey shirt there
Yeah, I really
on his left there.
I really appreciate you coming down. That was pretty awesome that you wanted to do that. And you know, a lot of people hear of people, you know, over the years and places, and
Yeah.
they kind of go away or whatever. But man, it's just been a long time, you know, and it's hard to quit.
And I don't want you to.
No.
And he doesn't seem like he wants to either.
No.
He seems like he's kind of committed to this until he ends up in the Stewart house. Because I'm sure that'll be a sponsorship deal, right? You'll just put him in there as a sponsorship deal.
I know they ain't got any money. They're racers.
Well, it's all in here, that's right.
I just noticed that Kevin Swindell and Tom Thomas.
Yeah, there's a couple decals on this toolbox from.
Oh,
Kevin
yeah.
Swindell and Tyler Thomas. Tyler Thomas drove for us for a while. He made the A-main at the 360 Nationals first year up there, and that was pretty awesome. We made it one time with Todd Bishop. And, I mean, it's tough to make. I know people's ran for a long time and never made the A-main, you know, so it's a tough deal. One of our goals is to get, my son got a first top 10 this year in a 360 up there in a weekend
Good.
show, and he's had some good runs, and we just got to keep going, you know. And
His grandpa won't fire him. He might have fired his old man once, but, you know, he might have fired his grandson's old man, but he
Yeah.
wouldn't fire his grandpa.
He'd be better if he could find a good crew chief
You know any?
and a motor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a motor builder pretty well.
he won 3 heat races this year, won a B-main. He said the other night, well, I won a main event, but it wasn't the right one yet, so we're working.
It'll
on it.
come.
Yeah.
It's really great to catch up with you. It's nice to see you outside a liquor store. Mind you, I was the one in there before you got there, so I can't really be too judgy, can I?
Well, I had to go. My wife told me to.
I appreciate Mackenzie coming in and buying out all the stock of methanol moonshine.
When I was talking to you, I wanted you to bring some, and you said somebody bought me out.
Yeah, which is...
Now you know who.
Thanks for that. Well, the good part is you can get it on methanolmoonshine.com. We can actually ship it to Missouri now, so that's a big development for us.
And it's good with Victory Fuel.
It's very good with Victory Fuel. Absolutely. It's great to see you guys. Thank you so much for opening up your shop, and
Thank you.
appreciate it. It's good to see you guys.
We appreciate it.